Hey everyone, welcome back to Verse by Kurt, and today we are in the book of John, chapter 21, the last chapter. My name is Kurt Knutson. This whole thing is a daily Bible study where we go through different chapters, even though it's called Verse by Kurt, it's chapter by chapter. And what we do is we go through the step of observation, interpret, apply. If you're here, presumably, I would presume that you watched John's 1 through 20. So hopefully you know all this by now. If not, I encourage you to go check those out for more instructions. Until then, I will see you on the other side of the pause button. For the who's, we have Jesus, obviously. He is back. Simon Peter, Thomas, specifically Didymus, because there's a couple Thomases. Nathanael of Cana, sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples. John is one of the sons of Zebedee, so we're not sure who the two other disciples are. These are all the who's, and they are, as we'll see here structurally, they're already going fishing. They knew Jesus returned. They didn't know what to do. Remember, presumably they got the Great Commission, but they don't know what to do with that. Then we have 153 large fish that they catch. So I did the math. So if what I'm going off, there's a bunch of different kinds of fish in the Sea of Galilee, but a very common one, the fish of St. Peter, if you will, is a tilapia. And at their heaviest, I believe, they get to 3.5 pounds. A good way to look at this is their fishing profession. Each fish is $, $2 per pound. Just a cheap, that would be relatively inexpensive, I guess. And then 153 by the fish. And that would get us to a very expensive $1,071 and 535.5 pounds. Now, a couple of things here. There are bigger fish. There's carp in the Sea of Galilee, and there might be fish that don't exist there anymore. Fish that might have gotten fish to extinction before we even knew what they were. And so, what have you? There are bigger fish. I would say this, that to me, and I'm no fisherman, with this many guys on board of a ship, you have at least 7 here. 500 pounds. That's 2 guys. And if you can carry your own body weight or pull your own body weight up, you can lift that. So the narrative seems to be that they have a hard time lifting it up. So my guess is it's more poundage for the fish, bigger fish. Okay. But still, that's a lot of money that they catch. So lot of poundage, a lot of fish. Just trying to put something in perspective for you to understand what that's like a little bit. It's probably more. Third time Jesus revealed himself. Jesus counters Peter's denials. We'll see that down further. But this is the passage that does that. Many more books can be written about Jesus and what he's done. And there are, man. If you study this stuff, go to a Christian library, go to a Christian bookstore. Just go to your local Christian bookstore and see how many books are written on the subject. And then times that by 1,000,000, because there's new books all the time being written about Jesus. And I know in the passage it means there could have been millions of things written in different ways of the events, and this is just his account. But we're still writing books about what we even understand about Jesus. When's after these things, when day was breaking, so this is really early, they have breakfast after all this. So this is early in the morning when they're out there. It's dark. And then when they got to land, where the Sea of Tiberias or Galilee, I think we can write that there. Cana in Galilee here. And then 200 cubits away, that's actually, I did the math again, about 3 football fields. They're far away. Okay. Land, beach, words. Okay, so what I did was I took the 3 times in which Jesus talks to Peter, and I put those in each column here. So this is the Greek of each one written in lowercase, and then I translated some of these. This is just how it's translated often. So he says, first of all, Jesus says, agapes me. So this is Jesus. This is Peter. Peter's response. And Jesus again. So he says first time, agapes me. Agape is the highest love. So if you have, C.S. Lewis famously has a book on 4 loves. So you have agape, phileo, storge, and then eros. And this is the kind of self-sacrificing love, so a higher love. Phileo's kind of the brotherly love, Philadelphia. Storge is kind of parental. And eros is erotic. Obviously, the 2 bottom ones aren't mentioned in either one of these because we're not dealing with a father-son relationship or a man and wife relationship. We're dealing with the ways in which 2 brothers or friends or people in society can love each other. And what we have is this. Jesus asks if you can love me, or do you love me? Highest love. And Peter responds, he doesn't say, yes, I agape you. He says, I phileo you. Hey, brother. Yeah, brother. So Jesus says, bosque arnia. So, feed my lambs. Interesting response. Now notice, Jesus says again, agape me, phileo you. Peter's response, yeah, man. He's like, do you love me? I love you, man. I like you, buddy. And then he says, poimene, shepherd, aprobate, sheep. Shepherd my sheep. Okay, cool. Now Jesus drops it the 3rd time, pheles me. And then Peter's like, philo you. And Jesus says, bosque probate, feed my sheep. So that feed gets mentioned, and then sheep. So he says, feed lambs, shepherd sheep, and then feed sheep each time. And what the lambs and the sheep are, what the feed and the shepherd is, it's caring for. Caring for, you could possibly say new Christians and older Christians or followers. So feed my new followers, shepherd the ones that are here, and then feed also those. And so Jesus is restoring Peter here, but it's just interesting that Peter never really comes up to Jesus's level, and he won't be able to genuinely without the Holy Spirit. But it is really tragic when Jesus has to drop down. You see it in the text that Peter's like, hey, don't you know that I do love you? He just doesn't use the strongest form, which is what Jesus says. And Jesus is testing him, right? I think it's apparent after the 3rd time. Maybe Peter didn't, Peter seems pretty slow in these Gospels. But, maybe Peter gets it then, but I'm guessing he gets it later, what Jesus did. We can just see Jesus asks if he loves, Peter loves, and then Jesus tells him what to do with that love. And then finally we'll see at the end of the book that Jesus foreshadows Peter's death. All right, guys, I'm going to write the story so it kind of helps us understand the structure a little bit more. And you can pause here and I'll have it up there. So here we go. We have what I'm calling the epilogue. We already had the reason for the book and we had the resurrection. So you'd think it'd be done, but there's a little bit left that John wants to talk about. And so here's kind of the order of events. So some of the disciples fish in the Galilee. So verses 1-3. That's our setting. And then Jesus appears. Makes a story here. Verses 4-6A, the first part of 6. And Jesus appears and tells them to catch fish. The rising action, the disciples catch the heavy fish. 6b-8. The climax is disciples eat with Jesus. And that's verses 9-14. The falling action here, the drop, is Jesus asks Peter's love 3 times, and that's 15-17. And then the resolution, Jesus tells Peter's death, but not John's. And I don't have all the ending here, but that's 19 through 23. That's the story, at least. Let's go through kind of what's happening here. If you notice, the climax here is the eating, the feeding, if you will. Jesus is feeding them. He had them catch the fish, and he's eating it with them. He's fellowshipping with them, but he provided that. And before they were fishing with no luck, or have you, or whatever you want to call that. And then finally the death of Peter is told, but not John's death. And Peter's almost jealous. He's like, but what about him? And Jesus says, that's not for you to know. And really, it's interesting. We get the fact that Peter's going to be taken and presumably crucified. And tradition has that he's crucified upside down. And so that's interesting. There's a corroboration here. Must have happened within John's lifetime. So John knew about it, and I think he wrote it after the fact, that nobody mentioned that aspect, but it was between Peter and John that it was told. And of course, Peter's restored, but again, he doesn't have the Holy Spirit, so he's not completely probably understanding everything. There's a lot there. So let's take all this data here and let's come up with an interpretive statement. You can have more than just a statement, but I like to keep things pretty simple with that so that we can kind of encapsulate what's happening here. All right, guys, you write yours, I'll write mine, and I'll meet you on the other side of the pause button. I have, Jesus provides for us so that we can provide for others. And what's happening with that statement is we see it physically here. We see Jesus physically providing food for the disciples. And what he's showing is he says previously in the Gospels that he will make them fishers of men. And they go back and they start fishing for fish. And he's like, okay, well, you want to fish? I'm going to show you basically that you can get fish. I can get you fish. But remember, you're not fishers of fish anymore. So this is your last catch, basically. You are going to now fish for people. And so Jesus provides for us. He's going to have people come to us. He's going to bring us to these people. And he's going to bring us more people than we can even know what to do with. And our job as Christians is to preach the gospel and care for those people, and I think that's really what's happening is this: if you love me, and we love Jesus, hopefully more than Peter, we will feed or shepherd the lambs or the sheep of Jesus. We are serving those that he cares about. And some of those he cares about don't even know who he is yet. So that's a lot there. And I think that's also why he foreshadows Peter's death. Because ultimately he's going to die for fishing for people. And so that is what I have for the interpretation of this passage. I think that's why John includes it. We believe, and then we do. We don't, like I've been saying throughout, we don't always do perfectly, and sometimes we don't even do sometimes. In some long periods of time, we don't do. But that's what we are as Christians, is we are those that do the work of God right now. Speaking of which, let's get to our applications and see how we can use this. Let's look at this. All right, so here is what I have for my applications. Heart, I can love so I can serve. And that's just kind of the idea of the entire passage here. Soul, I can worship a God who provides. And remember, he provides for us so we can provide for others. Mind, I can know that Jesus can have mercy. I had more. I'm just going to have, he can have mercy. Generally, we know he's merciful, but he has mercy on Peter. So that's why I have that there. Peter denied him. He has mercy for him. And finally, strength. I can serve because of Jesus' love. All right, well, that is John 21. All right, guys, that's the book. I will see you in the next one.